Thanks so much, Brian, for jumping on with us. Like we've talked a ton with Eric, and Beaudry, like I said, has talked you up a ton. And so I'm super excited to kind of jump into this and get to know who you are and kind of hear your story. And then hopefully we can jump into some like heavier questions, because a lot of people, especially in terms of software, a lot of people are looking for some form of investment really early, just because it is expensive to get up and starting. And a lot of people just have no idea where to start. And I think you can help bridge just a ton of those gaps. So just very first thing, tell us a little bit about, who you are, how you got into investing, or how your firm got into it. Tell us a little bit about some of the exciting things that you're seeing in the future, different things like that. Just a good intro for the audience listening.
Yeah, so first off, it was a complete accident why I got into the industry that I'm in right now. I mean, in no way, shape, or form did I ever think I was going to be working with startups or founders or entrepreneurs or anything like that. Because I probably 15 to 20 years, I was always working for B2C, B2B, large Fortune 500 companies and doing sales and consulting for them and working with larger size companies all across the country. And it's funny, I was making really good money, but I wasn't happy. Weird, right? I'm sure you've never heard
it before. Dude, so uncommon.
But the thing is, I've always been a type of person where I'm very much into self-improvement, self-help, all that. So I'm listening to this stuff saying more money doesn't equal happiness. I'm like, okay, while I believe that, man, this money is really easy. So this is great. So I met my girlfriend probably about 5 years ago. And when she met me, she goes, "You have got to be the most complacent person I've met in my entire life." Because and I didn't even take that as an insult. I took that as, yeah, that's great. That's because I worked so hard in my job that I got my point to this level to where I actually don't have to really work hard because I already learned how to work smart. And I had yearly goals, not monthly goals. That was a big mistake on their problem, on their side. So I had my entire year set up by about halfway through February. I had a whole bunch of vacation days planned out. So I had a vacation set up every single month for the rest of the year. And it was amazing because I'm a guy that loves experiences. I love travels, all that. But oddly enough, I did that for about 2 years. And then I was thinking, I got to do something else. I need something more challenging. I need something harder. This is just too easy. So I went over and I started this new world called SaaS that I knew nothing about, software as a service. And so I started going into that. And then I went into what's called the PEO landscape, which is like payroll, HR, benefits, that type of stuff. And when I was into that, they wanted me to focus on, say, 25 to 200 employees. But I kept gravitating more and more towards, I'm going to go to the Silicon Slopes events. I'm going to go to the Salt Mine, to 1 Million Cups, to all that. And every time I kept going to these events, it just kept speaking to me. It's almost like it just had an ecosystem within itself. And I just loved it. So then I just kept switching my mindset of, how can I help out these entrepreneurs? How can I help out these founders? And I kept seeing that 90+% of them were failing and just couldn't get past these certain hurdles. So I go, how can I help these people pass these hurdles? So I kept attending all these networking events and met up with a couple different people that they had the exact same mindset. And they said, yeah, we're considering starting a consulting firm to do this exact same thing. And I said, we need to team up. So we teamed up, started a company called Business Builders Initiative. And that was, say, a little over a year ago. And just probably 4 months ago or so, then we joined forces with Angel Investor Network because they've got access to all the investors and the marketing deliverables and the dev work, all that type of stuff, and did that for a while. And we can probably get a little bit more into this a little bit down the road, but a big part that we've always wanted to make sure that we had an impact with is we want to help people grow their business the right way to where it's customer focused and that they're not just focused on the almighty dollar. They're focused on what's it going to take to give the best possible results to the customer. And so anyway, I won't share that part yet, but I've got something exciting to mention near the end of the call. So that's how I ended up where I am.
That's awesome, Brian. So tell me, as you kind of went on that path, what's your experience? Like, how many of these companies have you helped and you've seen grow or you've seen fail? Kind of, what's your overall number of companies you've been involved with, and who are some of those?
It depends. Like if you're talking about what did Angel Investor Network, like for example, they helped over 10,000 companies raise $380 million in funding over the last 23 years. But of course, we just came over to them. But we came over to them very, very recently. So they were changing a bunch of initiatives. They brought us in as the strategy guys, the consultant guys, and they were changing all the branding and everything like that. So we were working with them on changing all that and bringing on really unique people to get them to the next stage. So us specifically, we've helped probably say about 20 to 25 businesses on growing their business, on scaling properly, and just really getting through those immediate hurdles so they can get to that next level in their business. And we still are essentially their advisory board on hire, that they can always turn to us if they have any questions, if they are ever dealing with certain challenges in their life, in their personal life, or probably their business life, so they can get to that next level. And we can always just bounce ideas off, because what we find happens more often than not is entrepreneurs, it's very, very lonely. And they just work 80, 90, 100 hours a week, and that's painful. And sadly, and I know we're going to talk about this in a second, the owners, the co-founders, all that, 70% of their time is spent looking for money so they can find someone to invest in their idea and their concept and their vision. And they don't get enough time to actually do their strengths on doing what they're good at. But what happens is, because they're just focused so much on their business, they can't really see through the forest through the trees. So they just need an extra person who has a lot of experience that can say, all right, I've heard your ideas. And we're almost like their therapist, right? And so they can say, well, here are my challenges, blah, blah, blah. They're like, oh, okay. Well, have you thought about this? Holy crap, I've never thought about that before. That's awesome. And then they just get running with that. So, but also Angel Investor Network, they've taken over 100 companies public, and there are a lot of cool things that we can do on really whatever level you are. If you're $10 million in revenue already, if you're just barely idea on a napkin, and just really everywhere in between. It just depends on what's the best fit for you.
I heard one of my good friends who started a company posted on Facebook, and he was like, "What does it mean to be an entrepreneur?" And the number one comment was, "Someone who gives up a 40 an hour a week job to work 80 to 90 hours a week for less money."
For less money.
You get paid absolutely nothing.
Yep. So they give up 40 hours to work 80 hours and get less. And I just laughed pretty hard. Like, that's what it's called passion, right? That's what drives a lot of these entrepreneurs, is like, they want the next thing. And it goes to attest to kind of what you said at the beginning. It's not always money driven. It's passion driven, right? And if we're complacent, we're never improving. And I think that's where entrepreneurs kind of stand out, is they're ready to take their idea and they're ready to work at it. But like you said, maybe they're not doing what they're good at, right? Trying to raise money, a lot of people aren't very good at that, right? And so what they're good at is whatever their business is. So I think it's awesome to have these conversations and say, okay, how can we focus more on what they're doing and less on getting those funds?
Yeah, and it's not just they don't necessarily know what type of investor to talk to. They don't really know the network of how to go about that, but they don't have the right ducks in a row to even have that conversation, or they're pre-rev. And it probably doesn't make sense to talk to an investor yet, because why would an investor invest $100,000 into you unless you're the next Facebook, right? But if you're just regular random company that wants to get started, you think you might have an amazing idea, and while you may, you haven't generated any revenue, you haven't proven that you're scalable, you haven't shown the investor that they're going to get positive ROI on their deal. So why would they give you money? And there are so many ways of going about that. I mean, you want to make sure that you have all the investor docs in place, but not that just they're done, but they're done and they're appealing to investors, that you're actually speaking their language. But then you also want to show that, hey, look at what I've done with my marketing, with my very specific marketing to my target market. And these are the numbers that I'm getting, that I'm showing that I can grow my business through my target market So that in and of itself proves that I'm scalable. You can see on the back end that once I have customer acquisition, I'm hanging on to the retention because my fulfillment is on point. So I've got all the systems in place. So I'm ready to take this from here to here. And if I just add an extra $500,000 for 5% of the company, then that's where I would get. So that's a big part that businesses just don't understand.
So to kind of to go back to your point of like where to start, or basically just like basically it sounds like a lot of entrepreneurs just have no idea where to start or talking to the wrong people. And what I kind of want to do just a little bit before that is, how many of these companies have come to you and that you've worked with have just like totally crushed it and totally just botched it? And what were some of the characteristics you've seen? So one thing that you mentioned is, people that came in had proof that they were like, they've got this product market fit. Basically, they've shown that customers want it. They've got their marketing down. And it sounds like, even people have found success pre-revenue with you. What are some of the characteristics you're seeing in terms of people that are successful through working with you and the ones that aren't?
Man, that's a good question. And so we've been spending the last while on building what we call our value ladder with our resource partners. So by the way, I want to give a plug to you guys that you are part of our resource partner network. And I think that you guys are going to be very, very beneficial for our clients and getting them to the next level when it does make sense for that to happen. But I also need to give a plug to Eric Espinosa with Venture Validator, because we don't know what we don't know. And they may think that they have an amazing product or service. They may think that they know exactly who their target market is, but you don't know unless you actually ask the questions to the right people. And but you got to ask the right questions to the right people, and then you got to evaluate the results. So for example, one of our resource partners, who's also one of our financial resources, not an investor, he's more of where he'll do traditional and non-traditional financing. He also has an idea to where he wants to come up with, and I don't really think I'm giving much away, but he wants to do almost like a virtual Top Golf. And I wasn't really sure of the validity of this idea. So I go, before you start consulting with us, I think you better talk with Eric. The results are going to come out actually tomorrow. So by this time this goes live, then we can speak a little bit more about that. But I think he's actually going to get pretty decent results on it. So he signed up for one of their packages, and they're getting a whole bunch of surveys through his target market. And if anything, he's going to learn that either it's the right product, the right market, or he needs to tweak one or two of them. And then based on that, then they can come back with the report and say, hey, you know what? I just got like 8 out of 10 on this, which is crushing it with Venture Validator.
Yeah, seriously.
They're pretty hardcore on their
they're
results.
Pretty rigorous. Yeah,
they're pretty rigorous. And if you get 8, like history shows, if you get 8 or higher, that's a slam dunk. The next step is, because investors, they don't just look at the product. They don't look at if you have the target market figured out. They look at, do you have the scalability, and do you have the team that's going to take you to the distance? So you've got a founder that comes over and says, all right, this is going to work really well. You have the right product, you have the right market, but who else is going to be with you? Is it just going to be you? Because if it's just going to be you, I don't think it's going to work, because you're going to be huge on the vision. You're going to be huge on selling people the idea of it. But let's talk about how you're going to build out your team. And we help them build out their team. And whether we do it through recruiting messaging or anything like that, or if we just refer them to people or say, hey, you know what, you probably need to talk to this person, because I think that this person would complement your team really well. Once you have that together, then you're going to have a much better idea of, okay, let's take this a little bit farther and see where we can take this.
That's awesome. And it's funny, Brian, because we did an episode with Eric, and it was just fire, right? It was so cool. Like just the information and the knowledge. And it's so funny because we've done a couple of different podcasts for our listeners who have listened already, that number one was validating your idea and your product. And the number 2 big thing was putting together the right team. Investors want to see a good team more than even a good idea sometimes, to know that there is positivity, they're going in the right direction. So it really kind of just validates everything, that knowing your product is going to be a good market fit and having a good team is really, really important.
Oh, yeah.
So for characteristics of the founder, you said, one of the big things you look at is the founder, and you start with, are you a good fit? And then you ask the question with a team. What goes into deciding whether the person is a good fit? Is it just, you're super passionate about your idea? Is it that they've done their homework? How are you deciding that?
It's getting a really good understanding of they're willing to go the distance. I mean, there was someone that we just talked to yesterday that we feel that we're going to provide a pretty significant impact on getting them to the next level. And by the way, the reason why I say that, he just put out a HELOC on his house. He cashed out all of his IRAs to keep this company afloat. He hasn't paid himself in 2.5 years. He's got all these pending deals that are about to get closed, but as you very well know, you might have 25 deals that are about to get closed and have 0 of them close. There might be some really crazy pandemic that might hit. Oh wait, that just happened. Yeah. So you never know what the future is going to hold. So the beauty of it is he talked with his wife earlier, and she says, I'm 100% in support of you, and I think that you should continue with your business unless we lose the house. If it's anything aside from losing the house, do whatever it takes to keep this business up and running. And that's an entrepreneur. And he's also got a bunch of background to where he's got specialties in his business to where he's a specialist in what he does. He believes in his vision. He's got a couple team members that are just the right fit. So he's one to where he can really take it to that next level and have amazing success. On the other side of it, there's one guy where he says, hey, I'm just hoping for some free information. Can you just tell me like how I can really get to the next level? Can you introduce me to, say, 20 or 30 investors and just do it out of the goodness of your heart? I mean, what? And I said, so what are you willing to do to invest in your business? And he says, well, I don't know. I mean, I make pretty good money in the oil business, and I make probably say 150 grand a year. And I don't know. I guess I don't really want to do that anymore. So maybe I might just start working less on that. And I said, listen, sorry, I got to stop you. Unless you're willing to fully stop your 150 grand gig and just go all in on this business, you probably shouldn't continue with this business because you're not an entrepreneur, what I'm seeing right now. So that's the difference.
Yep. That's really good kind of insight. It's two very, very different examples. How much skin are you willing to put into your product? Because here's the deal. If I'm looking to invest in something and they're not willing to invest in themselves, why would I want to do it?
That's
right?
Exactly.
It just comes down to like, there's no reason why I would do that if they're willing to not even give up everything. Like, I'm not going to throw money. So one of the kinds I want to transition to is you talked about companies that kind of get their ducks in a row. What does that look like? Like, obviously you have the kind of the validation side of it, but when somebody comes in there, that they're ready to start talking to angel investors. Where are they at in their business?
Well, first off, I mean, even if you're pre-rev, if you're $1 million in revenue, if you're $100 million in revenue, you got to have an ironclad pitch deck that basically can say within a matter of 6 seconds, this is who we are, this is what we do. Very, very simple. Because what happens is they put pitch decks together, they put 25 PowerPoint slides together, which is a terrible idea. And they go,
wait.
All right.
Listeners, stop. Rewind, listen to that again because we hear that all the time.
yeah, and then basically, if the investor gets glossy-eyed within 20 seconds, you've lost him. So if they're just like, then or doing that, you're like, okay, let's put on the brakes. Let's stop. How can I improve on this pitch deck? Because obviously I just screwed the pooch on this one. So you just really want to just get right to it. You don't want to say, all right, here's our team. Here's what we do. We have a doctorate degree in this. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Unless you're maybe in med tech and it's absolutely imperative that you have expert knowledge on something, nobody cares. They just want to see that you have the passion, the drive, the wherewithal to take that to the next level. And then you have a viable product to where you've got that total addressable market. But the thing is, I mean, some people can say, yeah, I want to sell electric bikes. And there are 7.5 billion people in the world and 1 billion of them ride bikes. So great. All I have to do is just sell 1 billion bikes and I'm good, right? No,
Dude,
man.
that is like every person I talk to, like one just big article we wrote, like I was like, there is a very big difference in the clients that we like working with. And the first one are the people who come to us. We hate these people. They're just like, yeah, 100%. We are targeting moms. There are like 20 billion moms out there in the world. And with this subscription, we can charge $7.99 and capture, if we can just capture 10% of them. I'm just like, who are you people?
Who are
like,
you?
What are you? What do
Exactly.
you do? It's just so crazy. Versus the other person, they come and they're like, hey, I've got these screens. I've got like 50 people who'd be willing to test. Like we just need to get something
Yeah.
rolling, very specific. Those are very different pitches. And I never talk to the first guy. I'm like, hey, I hope you make it, but you're not somebody we can work with. So it's
We had a guy about 2 months ago to where he had this skin cream and he wanted to take this global. He said it was going to be the next big thing. And I said, great, who's your market? And he says, anyone who has skin. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh, what are you doing?
yeah, seriously.
And I said,
do you,
if you continue with that, you're going to fail your business. Let me help you with your target market. But anyway.
yeah,
And then you go,
no.
hey, Eric, can we?
Well, you really just throw this.
That's one of the things that we can do for him, because we can say, well, we'll give you a customer avatar worksheet and we'll say, let's get hyper specific. Like, let's say 27 to 32 years old, a single mom with kids that range between 5 and 10 years old. This is the type of activities that they prefer. They like to do yoga. They like to watch Netflix at night, whatever. And you just get to where you're fully understanding them, that when you're creating attraction marketing strategies, you're speaking directly to them, that when you're saying, are you this, are you this, are you this, you're like, yeah, that's exactly who I am. Now you want to actually read further on the website. You want to read further on their ads that they're putting and say, holy crap, this person is 100% speaking to me. And sure, I'm going to take action because they're speaking to me and only me. So this is great. But yeah, if you say, hey, do you have skin? No.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how general people like to stay, and I get it. Like it's super tough to get super focused, and it's a lot of work. And I mean, that's why you see these entrepreneurs,
a lot of work,
just driving through 40, 80 hours, just talking, grinding, finding their customers. Now, do you think it's just that they've got figured out? Is it just hyper focused, market? They just really understand that in terms. And specifically like software, either SaaS products or whether it's just a subscription app, is it just the focus on who their customers are? Or do you find at least a couple of them come to you with some form of design or a layout of the product in any way?
Yeah, I mean, a fair amount of them say, all right, I just did a basic piece of an app to where I hired some guy from India and I paid him probably $300 and he put together this app and it doesn't really do anything. It can't, but it's essentially to where I can go, oh, it does that, it does that, it does that. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I have an understanding. But then that's going to be pretty tough to do something with. So it's like, okay, great. Let's look a little bit further on how you can get this. Like, do you actually want to get the dev completely built, or do you want to just build a basic MVP, or do you just want to get some PowerPoint slides, or once again, going back to Eric, do you want to get this validated before you put $100,000 into your company? So, because you might put $100,000 into the company and be like, oops. I want this, but nobody else wants this. Like there was one of my buddies to where he says, hey, I've got a great idea. And frankly, I don't know if it's a great idea. And I don't know what you guys would think, but he says, yeah, it's one to where you can buy a drink for someone at a bar when you're not at the bar. Okay. So explain more. And he says, yeah, like, so it's going to cost me $100,000 to build this app. And all I do is just when I find out my buddy, because I guess it's like a to where they can track your location if you turn it on, then you can see that they're the Republican downtown and say, oh man, my buddy's over there. He loves this drink. I'm going to buy him one. And they'll say, hey, great, this is from this guy. And he's sitting at his home. And then you can thank him later or something like that. I'm like, man, I don't know if that's really a viable product. Is that really worth $100,000 for you? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, maybe you do look into just building a basic MVP, but I don't know. I'm the big believer that before you even get into the conversation about the MVP, just really start to figure out your target market, start to just get a
Yeah.
basic general idea of if is this even worth pursuing, then you can start looking into dev. But I don't know. I mean, you guys come
Yeah.
from the dev world. What's your thoughts?
Well, Brian, that's what I was.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask you. What are your thoughts of? There's a difference between an MVP and a possible prototype, right?
Yeah.
So, like one of the products that we offer to our customers, and this is a shameless plug here, is we basically say, hey, listen, we don't know if your idea is going to be good. Instead of dropping $150,000, $200,000 into an app and then finding out, let's have Eric go in and do some research for you. Let's build a clickable prototype, which basically is a fancy slideshow that you can do on your phone that is actually interactive and can walk you through the app and give you that idea that you had just talked about. Like, tell me your thoughts on that as if you were to have, because we don't want people to go and invest a ton of money on something that's, that's going to tank. We want to say, hey, let's get this in people's hands and tell us their thoughts. What are your thoughts on a prototype?
No, I definitely like that a lot because, for example, I would think that the guy who has the idea with giving a drink to a guy at a bar, that let's say if he takes this much farther, because really, how can you monetize that? But
Yeah.
if you're going over, and I can tell you exactly how to monetize that, you can go over to bars and say, let's get bars onto this, and then they can start doing very specific, like, hey, come in and get 15% off of this, blah, blah, blah. And then they can start advertising to it. But I think the prototype would be an amazing idea, because then you can go into, like, the example that I brought up was Republican. And then you can go over to that bar and say, hey, let me show you this prototype. I think this is something that would bring you clients. And tell me your thoughts. And then say, yeah, it'll do this, 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 and this. It's not done yet, but it can be done. And if this is something that you're interested in, then you can even be essentially a friends and family round. And you can do like an early adopter and give us, like, say, $1,000 or whatever. And you can be one of the first bars that are on here. And then you can essentially use that prototype to pay for your app, your actual comprehensive app. So do you guys feel the same way?
Yeah, and it's so crazy that you bring that up. It's super funny to me because a lot of founders will come and be like, no, like, I don't want a prototype. Like, I want this completely built out and I want to show it to people because then I have a physical product that I can sell. And I'm like, that's so cool, but you don't understand how much more power you have going to people and being like, no, like, you're the first one on it. You're getting a deal.
Absolutely.
Like it's like people don't understand, like, pre-orders are a thing for a reason. Like, there's so much value in bringing people on, and you get so much more feedback that way. 100%, like, I agree. Having some sort of form of prototype that you can show your customers and then iterate on is way more powerful than investing $200,000 on something that may flop or is going to get completely redesigned when people start, using it and giving feedback.
Yeah, and actually, here's a pretty decent idea on that. One of the clients that we're currently working with, the name of the company is called Dragon Federation. Really, really cool company. It's to where you can essentially build these virtual dragon eggs, and they'll give you a physical egg that's going to be customized specifically for you, which is a manufacturing nightmare, but we're working with them on manufacturing because it's going to be custom for every single client. So it's not scalable on that part of it, but we'll figure that part out. What he has right now is he essentially has a pitch deck. He's got, and I know this is a question you asked earlier, so you got the pitch deck. He's got his pro forma, executive summary, his 1-year business plan, all that. Those are basic investor docs that you absolutely need to have before you even have a first conversation with an investor, unless you're just like spitballing and just asking different questions. He's got that. He's got a super basic landing page, and that's it. And you know what? He has 300 pre-orders of these eggs where they're paying an average of $500 to $600. And guess when he got those pre-orders? Almost a full 2 years ago. Guess how many eggs he has built? 0. And we're in the process of getting them built for him right now so he can get his pre-orders taken care of, so then he can start scaling. So he's got such raving fans that have already fed into his business, and they reach out to him on a pretty regular basis saying, hey, you know what? We totally get it. Take your time. if this takes 5 more years, take your time. Tesla's the best example, in my opinion.
Seriously, I love what Tesla does.
Yeah, my girlfriend's got a Tesla. She had to wait, what was it, like 9 months before she could actually buy her car. But some people were on a waiting list for 2.5 years before they even got to buy a car. And
Model 3s were on back order for a super, super long time.
So long. And everyone was stoked about it. They're like, oh, great. Well, I'm one of the first early adopters. This is awesome. They get off on that. They love the fact that they're an early adopter, that they're part of this before it becomes part of just the regular core. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a great idea that you can get that. And it's actually not that hard, especially if it's a viable product that people believe in. And they believe in you.
Well, and not only that, Brian, but let's say you have someone that's pitching you an idea, and you have two people. One's pitching an idea. Let's say they're two different ideas, but one of them's like, great, these are both decent ideas. But one of them goes, by the way, I have 900 pre-orders of people that already want this. Now, if you go and say, okay, perfect, let me get you to my angel investor network, which one are they going to choose to want to invest in?
Pre-orders.
Right? And that's really what
every
it comes
time.
Every time. It's simple. Like, for example, I worked for a company, it was called Canopy Tax, right? So I worked for a tax company down here, or as a tax software. And the founder, Kurt Averill, said that before they even launched, they put a website saying, hey, this is what we're doing. Do you want to have information on it? And they had people sending in email addresses. They had like 3,000 to 5,000 lists of people who said, I want this, right? And then you bring that to investors, and there's
amazing.
Well, they already, and it was just a landing page. That's all it was, right? So this idea of like, hey, we have this prototype. Tell me your thoughts. I love it. Cool. Can I put you on a sign-up list for when it releases? Is that something you'd be interested in? Yes. Perfect. That is one step closer to you getting funding, I feel.
Yeah, because even if you don't have money from them, if they've given a commit to sign on with you once it's available, that's so much more powerful than this is my idea.
Yep.
And no one has said that they want it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom will buy whatever I make because
for sure.
You know, she tells me.
But how many people beyond your friends and family are saying yes?
Yep. That's
exactly.
the thing that investors are looking at, and for our listeners, that is so powerful, right? Being able to put something in the hands of a customer, like it, even if someone were to come to you and give you a product and you like it, and you're able to say, hey, I'm very interested in this when it comes out. That is just going to give you so much more power. But you know what? That's a lot of work as well. That's a lot of work the entrepreneur needs to do. But listen, if I'm going to invest in a company, or if an investor is going to invest in it, they want to know you're willing to go the distance, right? That's just kind of full circle of what we kind of talked about.
So many 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. evenings and mornings, just hammering it out and talking to people. So Brian, I've got a question for you then. I want to know, what is the best pitch you've ever had and why, and what did they come prepared with?
Ooh, that's putting you on the spot, Brian. Oh, geez.
That really is putting me on the spot. Let's see if I can come up with an answer quickly.
What is the worst pitch? Just kidding.
Oh, geez, so many worst pitches. Holy crap! That's an easy one. Let me quickly answer the worst ones first, just because there's so many of them. But it's basically to where they just talk about themselves, all that, without really ever mentioning, why am I listening to you right now? That doesn't even have to go into specifics about the company or anything like that. Just the second that they are only talking about themselves and their company and not really saying what's in it for the investor, then they've lost the investor. That's simple as that. The ones where they're the best. So I just went to a virtual pitch competition that was done by a company called Boom Startup. I don't know if you've heard of those guys. Oh yeah, that's right. I told you about that one yesterday.
I went to it. I sat for 2 hours and listened to every pitch. It was awesome.
Nice. Yeah. So the one that I liked the best was, I think, the first one. The name of the company is called Pedal Cell.
That's the bike one that charges all your devices, right?
That's exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah. And they're over in Chicago. And man, that was just such a solid pitch. I mean, it was just really on point that he captivated. Well, I first knew who he was, what he did, why he did it, how he differentiated from the competition. and why it was such a benefit for the investor to get in on this, and the tremendous scalability and upside that they had. They just started in November, and they've already had, I think they had like 300 or 400 people that have already signed on to it in just a 3-month period during really crazy, weird times that's happening in the world. So that's some huge testament right there. And we've seen what's going on with the whole presidency, with the clean energy and the electric cars and electric bikes and all that. So he's definitely in the right space at the right time. And there are just so many initiatives that are getting passed that's going to just benefit him that much more. So he's in the right industry. He's the type of company that's willing to go the distance. He's willing to go the distance himself. And he was just a really captivating guy. I mean, within 15 seconds, like, yeah, I'm totally listening. Like, tell me whatever you need to tell me. You've got my ears. But there were probably 4 or 5 of those pitches where it's like, all right, what else is going on? Like, let me see what other windows I can open up. Let's mute this and let's do something else, because I can't listen to this person anymore. This person's just talking about themselves.
Well,
so does that help?
Yeah, and I can attest to that, Brian. I listened to that pitch, and literally I knew what he was doing in the first 6 seconds. I knew who he was, and you know, I was captivated. I was listening to that pitch, and I mean, it might have helped that it was the first pitch. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time,
started out strong.
Yeah, it started out really strong, and he won his division too. I think
he sure did. Yeah, he won $1,000.
Yeah, he won on that pitch that he did, and he did a really great job. It was a really cool product. He seemed very excited and passionate about it, kept us engaged. So I guess when it comes to a good pitch, would you say that those are pretty key points?
Absolutely. Every single time. That if you're not able to, like I said, who you are, what you do, the difference that you're making, and what separates you, what distinguishes you from the competition, if you can't talk about that very, very quickly and captivate the investor, then what's the point of the investor listening to you? So you got to do that quick, really quick. And you got to be simple and specific and meaningful about your messaging.
Tell me, what does it take to get in front of the right people? Right? What would you suggest on getting in front of, like, let's say we validated, we want to get in front of investors. What advice do you give to those people?
When you're saying that they validated, they've already figured out that they have a viable product or service and people are interested in it.
Mm-hmm. And they're ready for the only thing holding them back is a round of funding, basically, to really just launch.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So once you've already proven your scalability through your target market, you've got a respectable product that's ready to go the distance, you've got the pieces in line, and you've got the investor docs in line and everything, then definitely that makes sense to either talk with Angel Investor Network, you can talk with really any different firms, or you can just really go out yourself. Because I would say once you've got that together, then you're going to be in a really solid position that you can really just start knocking doors and having a lot better success than just people that are, because the people that are going around 70% of their time are people that don't have all that ready, and they're just spinning their wheels in the mud and nothing is getting accomplished. But if you have all those pieces in place, then I would really suggest that I'm more of an organic type of person. So I like to go on to, say, a LinkedIn and just post a message and say, hey, and by the way, I don't wait until things are solid, until I'm to the point of I feel like I'm ready for funding. I like saying, hey, we're a brand new company. We have no idea what we're doing. Anyway, so here's our product, blah, blah, blah. And then just put a few other posts and all that, and then just make it interesting and funny and whatever. But do a lot of stuff that aren't related to your business, because people want to see your story from when you were like them to when you're big. Everyone appreciates the story. If then you can say, hey, man, this is really exciting. I just wanted to share this piece of content that we just sent out, and that we got a bunch of pre-orders, and I just wanted to share this with you. It's really exciting. And then, hey, great news, guys. We just got up to $100,000 in revenue. We're putting our investor docs together. And does anyone have any recommendations of different investors we can talk to that's interested in partnering with a company like us? We're looking for the right investment partner. And by the way, right investment partner is the absolute key, because you're going to be married to them as long as your business is in business, or you buy them out. And it can be difficult to buy them out, especially as you're growing, because it's gonna cost more. So
Yep.
you want to do your own heavy vetting, and then even reach out to some of the capital companies and some of the investors, not just in Utah, but just all over the nation. And then just really start to make as many connections as you possibly can with these companies. And then once you feel you're up to the point and say, hey guys, great news. I wanted to announce that we're opening our first seed round of $50,000. So I would love it if we could get somebody in on this. But actually, let me scratch that last part. The reason why I say that is because I'm not a fan of doing seed funding of $50,000, because that basically shows that, hey, I'm pre-revenue or I'm just barely starting to move up. I don't think you should give up the farm until you're a very solid business. So if you're already a very solid business, you should probably be asking for at least $250,000, if not closer to $1 million, and working it from there. And say, guys, we're awesome. I mean, we just did our valuation and we valued at $4.5 million, and we would love to get a $2.5 million funding round. And so feel free to send us connections, or if any of you guys are interested, drop me a line, and I would love to have a conversation, take you to lunch, and then we can talk about this a little bit further. Because the thing is, especially during this pandemic, it showed that things like this and just doing everything virtually, you can reach out to anyone. You might find someone in Switzerland that says, you know what, I think we're the right investment partner. Let's talk. Great. Well, now you can.
A lot of the things you mentioned have just been on LinkedIn, like posting, like you said, stories, where the company's at, everything that way. Do you feel like you have a lot of people reaching out to you just via email, or I'm guessing nobody probably gets your number, because I would assume most people try to keep that a secret, right? But do you feel like you get just a ton of emails? And if so, what are the kind of emails that you're being sent that really catch your eye and you actually open?
I would probably say 95% of the emails that I get directly go to my spam. So, because this is no exaggeration, we get over 300 companies a month that are looking for a handout, pretty much, and probably 5 of those 300 of them actually should get money at this point in their business. So we have a bunch of landing page, and we use ClickFunnels and all that type of stuff to filter people through the system. And there are a lot of the times where they just don't qualify for it. And then it says, okay, great. Well, here's a resource that you can have. You can be part of our Facebook group. You can be part of our LinkedIn group, whatever it may be. And then when you're ready to a certain point, then feel free to give us a call. And we have what's called an investor readiness quiz, to where they can fill that information out. And because a lot of times they think that they're ready for an investor, and we give a score out of 350, and their score is 15 out of 350. Like,
oh geez,
we get a lot of calls as well, Brian. We get those 15 scores. Like, okay, tell me about it. You know?
Yeah, and the thing is, so a lot of times I'll get those emails, and every once in a while I'll scroll through my spam and say, all right, so this one got a score of 15, and then I'll respond and I go, okay, great, thanks for taking the quiz. So it looks like here are 8 different things that you can work on. I don't want to try and tell you 8 things that you should work on. So the two main specific things: work on perfecting your pitch deck and get your executive summary. If you need someone to help you out with that, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, there are some resources online or different things that you can do to go about that and do a DIY. But if you want to work with us, we'd be happy to help you or refer you to one of our resource partners. But the majority of the referrals that I get are either from our landing page, or from our marketing that we do, or they reach out with me on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm looking for funding. Here's my pitch deck. And I go, okay, great. Well, either take this quiz, or this is how we work. This is how we consult with people to get them to the next level.
Brian, I'm curious, you kind of at the beginning of the conversation, you said, companies that basically give away the farm. What is your advice on at what point is too much?
How much should you really be giving
for 30%
away?
of the company? Yeah, don't ever give away a third of your company, like ever. That's a terrible idea. You've worked so hard and you've got this really good idea. Maybe you do, but hopefully you do. That remains to be seen. But let's assume that you've done a lot of vetting and you already know that it's a really solid idea, as long as you just have all the pieces in line. Well, just don't give away a third of your company. I see it happen time and time again, to where you're just you're just married to the all beholden investor, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be the other way around. You should be the one in the power, and the investors should be like, hey, you know what? I would love to partner with you. Not like, I own you now. No.
Yep.
Mhm.
So I would say if you could get to the point to where you're getting, say, $1 million in funding and you're giving away 3 to 5% of your company for the right investment partner that also has great connections to connect you with all these different people, whether it be manufacturing, developing, whatever it may be, to get you to that next level, well, now you have the right investment partner, and now it's a really strong equity play for you.
So real talk, Brian, does Shark Tank make you cringe sometimes?
Yes. It does, but it doesn't. So if you've watched enough Shark Tank, you know that the ones who usually get deals are the ones that say, well, because like a Mark Cuban will say, okay, great. Well, prove that your company is actually worth my money. And they go, oh, okay, great. So we not only have these pre-orders, or we have created this marketing, and we already have 220,000 units sold. And this is specifically through our target market, and this is what we have projected, and here's the reason why we have it projected to get it to this level. Those are usually the ones that go, okay, great. Well, if the deal makes sense, I would love to work with you and get you guys to the next level. What doesn't happen is when Mark Cuban says, okay, great. Well, tell me what you've done. Well, so it's a really good idea, and we feel that people are going to say yes.
Oop,
Okay.
who has control now?
But show me the proof. Yeah. Well, get out of here. So those are the ones that make me cringe. It's almost like the American Idol when you hear someone just absolutely bomb their audition. They bomb their audition if they're pre-rev and they don't have pre-orders.
Yep. Man, that's a gem right there.
Pre-rev,
pre-orders, right? That's really how we need to express that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know we only got a couple minutes, so I just wanted to quickly do a shameless plug and let you know that we have decided to reform our band and